Welcome to the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I am joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And today it is Power Hour, where we power rank something every week. And today we are giving out our mid-season awards now that we're halfway through the NFL season. And then, after Power Hour, we are going to be joined by the second gentleman of the United States of America, Doug Emhoff. Yes, Kamala Harris's husband.
Why not?
Why not? Why not us?
Why not us? Look at us. Who would have thought?
No, really, who would have thought? But yeah, no, we're just as confused as you. But yeah, no, so Kamala Harris's husband and the second gentleman of America, Doug Emhoff, is going to be a special guest judge, a guest justice on Fantasy Court with us here today after Power Hour. So stick around for that. And then also the whole interview is going to be live on YouTube on the Ringer NFL YouTube channel as well. So if you want to watch it, you can check it out there. So we're going to get to Power Hour. We're going to get to Doug Emhoff. But first, we actually have a bunch of news that we have to hit right now, starting with the Colts have benched Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco at quarterback. Yeah. Reading from Adam Schefter, my beloved Adam Schefter's Twitter feed. A QB change for the Colts. Indianapolis benching former first-round pick Anthony Richardson and turning to veteran Joe Flacco. Sources tell Fowler, ESPN, and me. Coaches met this morning and made the seismic organizational decision to change quarterbacks. Craig, immediate gut check for you. Do you like the decision to bench Anthony Richardson?
I don't. I don't like this move at all. This better be a temporary move. This better be a way for Anthony Richardson to like take a step back and reset and let the game catch back up to him a little bit. A few healthy weeks of practice and he's back out there. That's what I want. They're playing the Vikings next week. Maybe it would have gotten even worse and that would have officially broken him and they're going to take a couple weeks off. But if this is a season-long bench, or to me, this is just an admission that like, all right, I guess this is over now and it didn't work. You drafted this guy 4th overall. What were you expecting? He's played 10 games in the NFL. He played 13 games in college. Like they gave Bryce Young more time. They gave Jamarcus Russell more time than they're going to give Anthony Richardson. I just think this is kind of ridiculous. I enjoy going 9-8 with Joe Flacco.
DK, is that, do you agree with Craig?
Yeah, pretty much. I think my first thought was like, okay, is this just going to be a benching for 1 week so he doesn't have to face Brian Flores, Vikings defense? And then after that, they're going to go back to him and just say, oh, this was just like kind of like a, give him a second to kind of catch his breath. Ha, like that was a pun because that whole thing where he took himself out of the game is like, I think actually pissed a lot of people off. If you look at what some of the teammates said, Ryan Kelly, the center, came out and, was basically saying he had to take him aside and talk to him about it. Like, I think that is that's like the top of the iceberg or whatever. You can't really see what's going on below that. I feel like the team as a whole was like pretty pissed about that whole situation. So maybe this is just sort of like a punitive benching for 1 game. We'll see. I think if they don't go back to him after that, then this becomes a much bigger story. I kind of am just like
expecting. Were you expecting him to just show up and be good immediately? This stuff takes time. Again, this guy's played 10 games in the NFL. Physically, he's still one of the most gifted players out there.
I disagree with the premise though, Craig. I mean, DK, I think that what you're saying is like he's playing poorly and he's young. What did you expect? And I think what DK is saying is that he's playing poorly. What did you expect? Also, he pulled himself off the field because he was tired and that pissed off all the veterans on the team. And I think those are like, it was poor play. That the straw that broke the camel's back was poor judgment, right? Is that how you feel, DK?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, look, this is maybe just a reactionary move by an organization that's done some pretty reactionary, weird things in the past, and it'll probably end up looking bad. I do think that there's a world in which Joe Flacco plays next week against the Vikings and he's terrible because the Vikings defense is really, really tough. And then they're like, okay, look, we're going back to Richardson. If that doesn't happen, if Flacco plays terribly and they don't go back to Richardson after this next week, then I'm going to be like, okay, I don't know what the Colts are doing. I really don't know what the Colts are doing with this, because you even had the Shane Steichen when they drafted him was like, we think the best way for him to get experience and to develop is to play him. And, benching him after however many, you said 10 games he started in the NFL. Benching him after 10 games just seems so like it's a departure from their very obvious plan like that they had when they drafted him. So I don't know. It's to me, this whole situation is pretty bizarre. And I think we'll know more like this time next week, I think.
I agree. We'll know more next week. I disagree, though. I think that they had to bench him. I think this is the right move. And I actually 100% agree with benching him.
But you're saying this is a slap on the wrist for taking himself out of the game.
No, are you saying, so you say they have to bench him? Does that mean they're done with him?
No, and I think that that's the number one disagree. I think that's the number one conflation I think that's happening with the story is that there's the idea that Colts benching Richardson on the headline on ESPN is being conflated with like Panthers bench Bryce Young, who's like being shoved away of like, you're not good enough to play in the NFL right now. You like, we're not competitive with you. I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think that if he did not pull himself off and say that he pulled himself off the field for being tired, I don't think he gets benched. I don't think he does. I think
Okay, well,
this
that's a
happened because he
different
got
story
tired.
then. I completely agree with that. But
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
But it's being communicated. Schefter used the term seismic.
I know. That's what makes me worried.
They are leading you to believe that this is
Yeah.
an organizational long-term decision. I feel like and maybe that's incorrect, and that is just inflammatory language. But
I think it's
yeah,
inflammatory language.
if this is a temporary benching because he made a stupid decision, then I completely support it. But if this is like we're done with Anthony Richardson, I do not support it at all.
I think it's a temporary benching because Jeff Saturday went on First Take and he said, yeah, look, this is crazy. They're going to have to bench him for a week and then we'll see. And like, I usually don't get all my great information from First Take. Jeff Saturday is such good friends with Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay fucking hired him off the goddamn set of First Take to run the Indianapolis Colts. There is probably nobody on television that talks to an NFL owner more than Jeff Saturday talks to Jim Irsay, or at least you should listen to when they speak more than Jeff Saturday speaking about what Jim Irsay would say about the Indianapolis Colts. Jeff Saturday himself caught himself and said, a week and then we'll see. That's probably exactly what Jim Irsay's thinking.
I think there's a reason that I think we're having so much disagreement on this, and it's also like just such a confusing situation.
I think we're agreeing though, kind of. Right?
Well, I think what I'm saying is like we're not really quite sure what's happening here is because if you and I saw I apologize, I don't know who did this. I saw this on Twitter. Somebody did a study of the last like 20 something years where teams coached or teams benched like a highly drafted quarterback. I think it was like top 10 drafted quarterback. And like in very, very rare situations, did that guy ever come back and like quote unquote win the job back? Like it's only happened a handful of times in like 20 years. And so I'm just still trying to get a grip on like what this actual situation is. Is this a punitive thing? Like he's benched because he took himself out of the game, or are they like giving up on him? Like, that's the hard part here.
I think it's the easy part. I think it's 100% because he said he took himself out of the game. I think here's the thing. You're the quarterback. Like, you don't get to leave. It's the remember the Titans thing. You don't get to be tired. You don't get to be thirsty. That's what all the credit's for. Like, I know, look, you can think whatever you think of this, and I know it's a little cliche, but NFL players are prepared to die on the field. I know that sounds a little dramatic, but that's how they feel. Right, you cannot ask 30-year-old offensive linemen who have families to go out because and like risk in their mind, risk their lives to go out for this dude. Because again, everyone agrees Joe Flacco makes the Colts more competitive right now. Everyone agrees. We're saying, and the Colts externally, internally, everyone knows we're playing Anthony Richardson because he needs to be developed. He's the future of the team. You're the guy. The Colts offensive line, you're gonna have to work harder because this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Receivers are gonna be upset because this guy doesn't know what he's doing yet. We have to be patient with him. And then you pull yourself off the field? This is all for you, dude. You're 22 years old. You've been playing like shit. And the problem is that when he walks off, it's the implication that he can just walk back on. You check out of the game, you check back in like you're LeBron. That's not how it works. You're playing like ass, and the problem is the entitlement to walk back on. I don't think he made I don't think it's an attitude problem. Look, Richardson, by all accounts, is a hardworking guy. It's not like an attitude issue. Mm-hmm. It was a lapse in judgment because, again, I would argue the opposite. I think the people with the issue with benching him is, oh, well, he's supposed to play. He's going to learn something. I guarantee you there will not be 1 week of Anthony Richardson's first 2 years of his career that he learns more than this week because it's about the weight of being the starting quarterback. All these people depend on you. You don't get to be tired. That's what the money's for.
You don't get to be tired.
I feel like, Heifetz, you're straw manning this a little bit. I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact that
everyone everywhere is saying that he shouldn't be. I feel like most people are saying they don't think he should be benched.
But that's because the narrative out there is that he's benched permanently. If the narrative out there in the media was that he's getting a 1 or 2 game kind of slap on the wrist
like
because he stupidly pulled himself out of a game, I think everybody finds that to be a reasonable move.
Yeah, because I agree and I hear you. I guess maybe I'm putting cart ahead of the horse. Maybe it's worth establishing. I think they're trying to set the message. Look. he was playing terribly, and they're sticking with him. And again, just to hammer home the numbers because they're incredible. He completed 10 of 32 passes this week, 44.4% of his passes on the entire year, which is the second worst of the 21st century. Austin Gale had this stat. He's just ahead of Achilles Smith. He's just behind Tim Tebow and Jamarcus Russell and Ryan Leaf. Like Tim Tebow, Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf.
Firing up that search engine, man. He's affecting the course of history.
Killing the rainforest to find out these numbers. And again,
he's the reason that they had to bench Richardson because he's tweeting all these things.
The ozone is disintegrating as we speak.
But the completion percentage is not a perfect number and like all this stuff. And look, there's tons of drops. Like he's sailing passes over guys' heads, but the ones he puts in a bucket sometimes get dropped. There's a lot of like he's more aggressive downfield. There's a lot of reasons that it's a high such a bad completion percentage. But the other thing is, look, in his defense, he's the youngest quarterback in the league. He's like 2 years younger than Jane Daniels. He's 2 years younger than Bo Nix. Like he's younger than these guys. There's going to be mistakes. I think the point that that's the point I'm trying to impress. And he's played 4 games last year. Again, it's still at like 20 since he left high school. The thing I'm trying to impress. This is to me, my take on this. This is about the implication that you can play like shit and walk off the field as if you can and then just walk back on. It's about the sanctity of playing and the idea that you think you are entitled to play when you are playing terribly. When the entire organization is moving behind you to develop, you can't just opt out in and out when you feel like it. And so to your point, if you wanted to get the message across that it's not something you can dangle with. You have to earn it. You have to take it sacred. You might have to play like you might never get to do it again. Do you want it to be publicly known? Oh, it's a slap on the wrist. Don't worry, Anthony. You'll be back in 2 weeks.
Heifetz, this is
who are you preaching to?
I feel like you set DK and I up to be like, Anthony Richardson is benched for the rest of his career. Craig, your opinion. And I'm like, I disagree with that. And you're like, Craig, you're so wrong. This is a temporary decision.
But am I crazy that the word on this is...
I think everybody agrees with
Everyone agrees with you.
This is not a hot take that he should be benched for pulling himself off the field.
But to your point about, the confusion, what I'm saying is the confusion's on purpose. They want Anthony Richardson to worry that he's going to be benched forever. They don't want Anthony Richardson knowing he's getting the job back in 2 weeks. That's why this is a narrative.
Yeah,
that's why Schefter's using seismic, because they want Anthony Richardson to worry he's Bryce Young. He's not Bryce Young. He's going to get the job back in 2 weeks.
I think Craig's right. We don't really disagree.
Yeah, we definitely don't.
We're like screaming at each other.
The first thing I said was, if this is temporary, I completely support it.
Yeah.
Austin Gale just texted me. So the YouTube, we're live on YouTube, the Ringer NFL YouTube. If you want to watch Power Hour, we do this live on Tuesdays. The 58% of the chat thinks Richardson should be benched. I know what you mean. I probably did ambush you a little.
Benched for a game or two?
Forever.
Well, I see what you're saying, where I think people are reacting as if he's benched for the season. And I think what I'm trying to say, there's no fucking chance he's benched for the season. Zero. That's is that controversial?
I also think, no. I also think it really lines up nicely that they're playing Minnesota this week.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway.
What do you think Flacco's reaction to this is? Gee, thanks. You're sending me out to the wolves. Stepping on my head when I'm drowning.
This is like elder abuse.
I'm sure he wants to play, but yeah. He's like, hey, pal, can you go in there and play this really tough, impossible defense? And then
I feel like
then you'll get the bench after that.
I feel like that was our first trial run at First Take.
Yeah, this first. I was watching Jeff Saturday.
We're all assigned roles in this. Yeah.
I was just fired. No, I think that I just saw this discourse defending him, and I'm kind of like, he's playing like shit. And he took himself. I just got mad that he took himself off the field. Honestly,
it's deplorable. But again, every's mad because they think he's
deplorable stuff.
Whatever. Deplorable. You just said players are prepared to die out there, and he needs to re-grab the sanctity of the game.
Well, Craig, you're being really
use
aggressive.
Sanctity. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we're not disagreeing, Craig. You don't have to get so aggressive.
Right.
All right. Other news. Panthers traded.
That was good. That was good. I feel like the producer of First Take would love that.
Call us. Panthers traded Deontay Johnson to the Ravens. This is the other thing that happened today. The trade terms are hilarious.
The NFL does not like this player,
dude.
Very clearly,
it's a fifth and sixth round pick swap. So basically, but the Ravens are good
to the Ravens,
right?
The Ravens are good at the end of the fifth round. For the Panthers are bad at the beginning of the sixth, and there's comp picks in the middle. So the Panthers basically moved up 15 picks in the sixth round. It's literally like moving from the 180th pick to the 165th pick. In exchange for Deontay Johnson.
It's hard to find something less to give a team.
Is that really all they could get? There was no better offer out there?
I wanted to ask you that, DK, of what questions does that...
Throw it a 7th.
But DK, what questions does that raise for you? Because I'm wondering, Is he actually hurt? Like Devontae Adams was like pretend hurt and then got back and he was fine. Do we think Deontay Johnson's actually healthy or is he actually worth this? Because I don't know what to make of this.
Well, I don't know. Craig, you're a Steelers fan. Steelers famously have an incredibly long leash for their talented players. Going back through history, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger,
Le'Veon Bell,
Martavis Bryant.
Sure, the list goes on and
like
on.
they've put up with some shitheads over the years, right? And they got rid of Deontay Johnson for not very much. I forget what the original trade.
They got a cornerback for him, and they
Dante
got
Jackson,
and then a seventh,
sixth round swap.
So like that means Dante Johnson. He was getting cut then, probably, right? Like, so I don't know. That to me says something. And then the fact that no other team wanted to trade for him more than like a day 3 trade up, like that is insulting.
I think
just you cut me. Yeah.
I feel like I know that Sherlock Holmesing it isn't like, logically very sound to be like, oh, here's every option. But I feel like if you're going to say Deontay Johnson's such a locker room cancer that even Mike Tomlin couldn't deal with him, where it's like Le'Veon Bell was boxing within 2 years of leaving the Steelers. Antonio Brown took his jersey off and left in the middle of a game. So like those are I feel like Deontay Johnson, I know he's a diva, but I'm like, I don't think he's like that. So no, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. The Panthers, by the way, also ate a lot of his salary.
He's basically getting paid the minimum on the Ravens.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because Deontay Johnson also seems to often want to take himself out of the game?
There's a pattern here.
It's deplorable,
perhaps.
Really.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what stuck out to you. After the entire rant you just went on.
He turned it around on you. He's an expert. He's an expert at rhetoric, Craig. He will turn anything around on you, Craig. I think me and you were kind of like ganging up on him a little, and he turned it immediately.
I was just mad
that was
I feel
expert level stuff.
Maybe that's a good distillation of social media because all I saw on social media was people saying Richardson should play. But maybe that's a good reminder that popular opinions aren't actually posted in social media because it's like not cool to post anything obvious. Because I feel like I saw the world, everyone was like, this is dumb.
Well,
what happens if
you guys
like
were
3
arguing
weeks
different points? Everybody thought he's benched for the rest of the season. That's
the point I was trying to make is the Colts are making it lying to scare him. It's scared straight. It's making him smoke the whole pack of cigarettes.
Quick question before we move on. I want to know what are you going to say about this whole situation if he's still benched like 5 weeks from now? Then what's your opinion?
Well, the problem is like, what if the Colts, like, let's say the Colts beat the Vikings by 20?
I know.
That
is the question.
You don't have to bench him till you lose. Like I think it's not like benching him is some death sentence. Back in the first 100 years of football, you just let quarterbacks learn till they were good enough to play. You know what I mean? It's not the worst thing in the world. He's 20. He's the youngest quarterback in the NFL.
I think Drake May's the youngest. I think he's second youngest.
Oh, I guess maybe Drake May's younger.
Yeah.
Is Drake May younger?
This was fun.
No,
this was really
August
fun.
30th, 2002. Anthony Richardson was born May. He's like 4 months younger than Drake May, or older. Sorry. Okay.
Get your facts straight next time, please.
Yeah, sorry. All right. Let's get into Power Hour. And again, Power Hour, baby. So we're doing midseason awards and again, if you're new here, Power ranks something every Wednesday or Tuesday now, but Tuesdays on Ringer NFL YouTube channel, and then when episodes come out Wednesday. So if you want to get a little early in on the action, you can watch us do this on Tuesdays. I don't know how you rank awards, but really what's going to happen is it's going to be more like an award show where we're going to give our nominees at the top, and then we'll have 2 minutes, and then we'll play ourselves off with Tom Tom Club and Genius of Love at the end. So that's really the Power Hour action for today. And again, we're going to give the midseason awards, and every 2 minutes, Power Hour style, you're going to hear this sound. So boom, let's just get into it. DK.
Yo.
Number 1, fantasy MVP for the midseason fantasy MVP. Craig, I'm just going to read the nominees. DK submitted Derrick Henry. Craig submitted Derrick Henry. And then I submitted Derrick Henry, but also should we discuss Lamar Jackson or Jane Daniels?
Yes.
Lamar, I think expectation matters here. And the satisfaction of drafting this person. It's like Lamar was the MVP last year in real football. I'm like, look, Lamar's Lamar. Is anybody surprised? Derrick Henry, there was like a rumors that he's washed. Is this going to work? He's 30 years old. The workload. Like, I think the gamble of Derrick Henry and him being the number 1 running back in fantasy. He's the number 3 overall player, including quarterbacks. So I think part of MVP to me is feeling vindicated by the pick as well.
I mean, no, please.
I thought about putting Lamar here too, but ultimately, just what Henry has done, he has outscored the number 2 running back in total points by 30 fantasy points. He's averaging 21 points a game. 0 games under 10 points. If you look at it from like multiple angles, whether it's like the really high spike games and the consistency, and what he's doing relative to the number 2 running back in terms of total points so far, and obviously points per game. I don't know. It just feels like if you have Derrick Henry in your team, you're probably in the top 3 in your league, unless you're really, really unlucky. And I think Lamar, yeah, what Craig said is like right. There is a little bit of a narrative with MVP, and I think Henry doing this at his age, after changing teams, after some of the doubts. Even I had some doubts about him coming into the season. I know Craig was really hyping him up, and I was like, I worry about their offensive line. They're changing so many guys. Like, this is a new team, new scheme. I don't know if they're going to use them a lot. Remember week 1 when Justice Hill was in there like a whole bunch? I was like starting to be like, oh God, this might not be. And I think John Harbaugh was talking about, oh yeah, we didn't bring him in to like run him into the ground, and he's basically like squashed all those worries and is awesome.
Derrick Henry has 900
300 carries.
Yeah, 946 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. 946 and 9 touchdowns. It is week 8. Like, it's been 8 weeks. He's on pace for 2,000 yards. So,
I think
Derrick Henry it is.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think this season has cemented him as the best running back of the 2020s.
Yeah,
definitely. Waiver wire MVP. DK submitted Baker Mayfield. I submitted Baker Mayfield and Tucker Kraft, the tight end for the Packers. Craig submitted Tucker Kraft, Darnell Mooney, and Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason should not be eligible. I feel like every league I was in, he was drafted. And so I think Jordan Mason, we throw him out. But Tucker Kraft, the cop-out is just give these guys like the positional awards, because Baker's definitely the quarterback waiver out of the year. He's the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. Baker Mayfield. He's been unbelievable.
He's averaging 23 points a game. That is hypermobile quarterback numbers, right? Like, that is a huge advantage. That's like the type of quarterback where you have a running back and a quarterback like in one spot, and he's doing it all through the air. This is probably not going to last all year. Let's be honest. They've had some injuries. He's not going to throw 3 or 4 touchdown passes every game, but he is leading the league with 21 touchdowns right now, 21 passing touchdowns. He's also added 3.6 points per game rushing. So he's scrambling around a little bit, scored a couple touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, he's to me the waiver wire MVP. Like, he was basically a non, like, no one was thinking about him before the year. He was just like a random statue quarterback that no one really thought about. And I saw this for fantasy points. He's 5th in wins above replacement, their WAR metric. The only guys in front of him right now, Henry, Lamar, Kamara, and Barkley in that category. So pretty invaluable. I
think it's probably Baker as the winner of this category. I think, but yeah, shouting out Tucker Kraft, who honestly has been amazing. He's basically a top 5 tight end of the year, and he really would be higher if Malik Willis didn't play. He basically took 3 weeks to get going because of Malik Willis, but since he's gone back, he's been incredible. And then, I mean, Tucker Kraft was getting drafted outside the top 300.
Yeah, he was the backup on his own team. Yeah.
And then I want to shout out Darnell Mooney, who has been a wide receiver 1 this year. He's been a top 12 guy in the season. Darnell Mooney, I mean, who's like in Van Jefferson territory to me. It was like a guy that people are just like, yeah, good number 3, number 4 guy maybe, but it's like Drake London and Darnell Mooney and Kirk Cousins are now like the Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, where they're both top 12 guys this year. It's been incredible. Nobody predicted Darnell Mooney.
Craig, do you remember Eddie Royal?
Yeah.
For the Broncos all those years ago, and he had like a really big first season and then basically did nothing for the rest of his career. I feel like I could be wrong. He might have had like another good year or 2 in there, but Mooney kind of reminds me of him. It's like you hear about him as a rookie, he goes over 1,000 yards, or I think it was his rookie year, and then basically just disappeared forever. Like, I was thinking that would be what happened with Mooney, but it's awesome to see him playing so well again.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it didn't work with him in Fields in Chicago and DJ Moore there, and it's like now he's in a more traditional passing offense.
So waiver wire MVP, we're going Tucker Kraft, a tight end, copping out, and then Darnell Mooney's the receiver waiver wire MVP of the year, and Baker's the quarterback. Are we saying Baker's the overall MVP?
Yeah,
I think Baker is.
And then also we have quick breaking mid Tom breaking news. Austin Gale has just texted us that Ian Rappaport from NFL Network's reporting the Vikings just traded for a new left tackle, and they're acquiring Cam Robinson in exchange for draft pick compensation from the Jaguars. And when they don't tell you what the pick is, that means it's a bad trade for the team who gave up the guy. That's a fun little inside fact for you. If you don't know the pick immediately, it wasn't a good one.
Conditional 7th rounder.
Additional draft pick compensation means not a first or second rounder. So anyway, I think that just means the Vikings, Christian Darrisaw had that injury and they need him for the rest of the season. And I think that left tackle injury took the Vikings out. Or like the offensive tackle injury took the Vikings out of Super Bowl contention, frankly, just because Brandon Thorpe is a really good offensive line expert compared it to like the Niners losing Trent Williams. And I think that this puts them potentially back in the mix to be a serious contender. Anyway, we can keep going here. Number 3, the biggest bust of the year in fantasy. Craig had Patrick Mahomes and or Anthony Richardson, which is fair. DK and I both had Christian McCaffrey. And
yeah, it just depends how you look at this. Yeah.
I there's an argument both ways. Craig, I'm curious to hear. Did you consider McCaffrey in a different category?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, a bust is when
go on
a player plays poorly. McCaffrey's not playing; he got hurt. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes is the QB 21. He hasn't scored 20 fantasy points yet this season, and he has a pick in every single game. If you want to measure expectation versus reality, it has to be Patrick Mahomes. At least with Anthony Richardson, there was we kind of knew the floor was there. We knew he was volatile. This is Patrick Mahomes. He's unstartable. It's like Bo Nix versus Patrick Mahomes isn't even a conversation in fantasy right now.
I'm looking at fantasy points. Mahomes was the number 2 quarterback drafted in fantasy.
Yeah, dude, he's Patrick Mahomes.
These are the 3 kinds of fantasy disappointments, though, because Mahomes is the guy who's amazing, and you're finally going to get to have a steak and watching him on Sundays, and you're like, oh, this sucks. Richardson's I have the coolest player in the league. It was Richardson and HN entering the year, and I got Richardson. Everyone's hyping him up, including us. And you're like, oh, and then you're watching, you're immediately like, damn, this guy kind of sucks. And you're like, huge mistake. And then McCaffrey is you got Ponzi schemed. McCaffrey is I feel like I was part of a financial crime and I would like to join a class action lawsuit. Because the thing about McCaffrey and why I think McCaffrey's the answer here, as bad as Mahomes and Richardson were, I think we've forgotten that we didn't know he was even really not playing on Monday Night Football till 90 minutes before Monday Night Football.
McCaffrey, this whole thing is fraud. There's no way around it. This should legally be defined as fraud. They sold us a bill of goods.
It's a different category. This is SBF fraud award.
And I will say, the Niners with the injury reporting, Deebo Samuel not being off the injury report, and then he's 2 plays in. Oh, had pneumonia. How weird. Fluid in the lungs. Couldn't have known.
It's buying stock in a tech company and then finding out they don't have any tech. We don't. Actually, we lied. We don't have a.
You say
AI.
Theranos? It's Theranos.
Fuck. I only read about it.
I wouldn't have got that right either.
Read about it. You never watched the Elizabeth Holmes documentary?
No, I read the Wall Street Journal reporting. It was based on.
Oh. Doc's good.
Went right to the source.
And the Amanda Seyfried show is good. I think it's called The Dropout? Yeah.
Well, we're here. Seyfried? Is that how you say it?
Seyfried?
I mean, I'm not going to go with my instinct at this point, but I always thought it was Seyfried. But again, kind of never heard her name said aloud till right now.
I don't know. I've heard it both ways.
Theranos.
Let's bring Amanda in.
I think Theranos is a better name.
It's
he wouldn't have gotten caught if it was called Theranos.
That's a good take. I don't agree, but it's a good take. That's a first take, right?
That was my first take, yeah.
Wait, so we're giving it to McCaffrey? I think we should do a vote here in the chat.
Dude, yeah,
I also
vote in the
had-
chat.
I
The
had-
YouTube chat can vote.
I had Richardson written down. I said it was CMC, or if you're actually counting it players who played, it's Richardson.
But I guess
think
I'd say
Mahomes
this
is
year.
probably
Well,
better.
dude, at least with
Richardson's
Richardson, you're I mean, fuck. He played 4 games in his entire career. Was there a world in which I knew this could crash and burn? Yes. I feel like Mahomes, you were I'm safe.
That's fair, but
Yeah.
3 years from now, like Bill Simmons, people will just be referring to this as the McCaffrey year, the year McCaffrey never played. It's the defining thing. It's
Some people took him number 1 overall.
first. He was the first pick for a lot. We're the only place that moved him off the first pick.
I just think
and
it's
he just didn't play for 2 months.
semantics. I think it's semantics. I think it's a different definition.
If you want to fine. How about this? We give the biggest bust award to Anthony Richardson, and I hate talking about football. And then
you don't want to give it to Seyfried?
Well, maybe. But what are we saying? We're saying the Theranos award, the Elizabeth Holmes award, is to McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Okay. we
Yeah,
can
the
work with that.
Elizabeth Holmes Award goes to McCaffrey.
All right. Next award here. We have the biggest chaos agent of the season. I had Mark Andrews. Craig had Mark Andrews. DK just put the Ravens.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is how I looked at it. This was a category that we started last year, and it was based on the Rams being just a fantasy chaos agent with Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua coming out of literally nowhere to be like two of the most valuable players in fantasy. And then Cooper Kupp, who everyone took really high, was like one of the worst players to have in fantasy league, probably lost your league last year. And the way that I look at it now is, and this is a long way of saying it is Mark Andrews, but it's like if you have Lamar or Derrick Henry, like you're probably in first place. This is creating chaos across the fantasy landscape, these two. And if you had Andrews, you're absolutely effed because you took him probably, I don't know what, the 4th round or something like that, 5th round, and he has done absolutely nothing. You probably had to chase after like the Isaiah Likely meteor that we saw in week 1, and you probably put him in week 2 and he effed you in week 2. Justice Hill in week 1 looked really good, and we're like, oh, he's going to be a thing. You chased that, and then he was nothing. The Ravens are just creating chaos across the fantasy landscape. That's the way I looked at this.
So you're saying chaos is a ladder or a
Yes.
shoot?
the reason
Correct.
why I think it's just Andrews is DK. You're right. He's been such a disaster. But I mean, look, he still hasn't scored a lot of points compared to like George Kittle. But in the tight end rankings right now, he's 8th.
I know he's coming back.
But that's like an average. That's like if your head's in the freezer and your feet are on the stove. It's like room temperature. It's like it was a month of fucking 0 points, and then he's been the
Insane.
number 1 tight end for the last month.
Isn't
Good
that the
expression.
definition of chaos?
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's like, oh, he's the number 8. It's like there are people who cut him when he was like 100th, and then he's first now. So it's like
No,
8th is like.
That's exactly what I'm trying to get at is that
Yeah.
he's 8th because, dude, he had literally back-to-back games with 0 points while playing and is now somehow the tight end 8 still because he's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. Like, that is the definition of chaos to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Andrews. I just wanted to get the explanation for the category is basically like which team or player is just completely fucking up your league.
All right. Mark Andrews is the chaos agent. Next one here. We got it's sleepers. It's like we always talk about sleepers as the random dart throw. And every now and then you hit a bullseye with the random dart throw. And we wanted to give the bullseye of the midseason award. Craig, you had J.K. Dobbins as the random dart throw bullseye.
Like that.
DK, you had Josh Downs. I'll admit I probably cheated a little. But I put Brian Thomas because I know he's not like a $1 fantasy football player. And it's
like
not a
4 or
cup league. I know
5.
he's not like...
Yeah.
But I put Brian
Sorry,
Thomas.
Yeah, it was a narrow category to think of a guy that actually went for $1.
I just wanted to shout out Brian Thomas from the Jaguars, and of course he's hurt now. But Brian Thomas is straight up the number 5 receiver in fantasy.
Yeah.
Literally, he's only behind CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, Justin Jefferson, and the number 1 receiver in fantasy, Jamar Chase. Maybe that's the answer,
Just
DK, when
total
you
points?
ask.
Yeah.
Say again?
Total.
Total
No.
points.
Points per game and total points, I believe. But that's... And to answer your question about what would I do if Anthony Richardson didn't play for 2 months, it's like the Bengals. I'm like, oh yeah, Jamar Chase, number 1 receiver in fantasy. Whoops, that's my bad. But I think Brian Thomas is probably too good of a player for this. So I don't know. You guys fight. Is it Josh Downs or J.K. Dobbins?
So Brian Thomas is the wide receiver 10 in points per game in half PPR. But regardless,
Well, Craig fed me that number. It was his fault.
how dare you, Craig? I don't know. This one's tough because I think ultimately J.K. Dobbins is probably more valuable to have at this point just because Downs is going to be volatile. He still has Richardson. If Richardson comes back, that's going to possibly mess things up. But I mean, if you look at what Downs has done this year, he is the wide receiver 23 and a half PPR points per game, right behind Mike Evans. Like he's had 2 bad games, granted, and he really kind of screwed you in those 2 games because it was really, really bad games. But in 4 out of 6 games, he scored 11 plus points. He's been pretty awesome. And he's, I think, clearly better than Michael Pittman at this point. I don't, obviously Michael Pittman could make a comeback, but he's like their number 1 guy.
Josh Downs is like the Darnell Mooney to Michael Pittman's Drake London.
Although Drake London's
Right.
been very good this year, but yeah.
But I think I like the Dobbins one actually too a lot.
Dobbins, I'm just like,
Yeah.
Dobbins was fun because he worked out immediately. Like if you believed in him and you spent $1 on him, like he came right out of the gate with 100 yards and a touchdown. And every argument that you had in the offseason, oh, they're going to run a lot. Gus Edwards is old. The Greg Roman system, like Harbaugh really likes him. It just immediately was correct. He's a top 20 running back on the season.
Let's go with
Right,
Dobbins.
So that was Dobbins is the sleeper of the year complimentary. Now we have the sleeper of the year derogatory for the sleeper who kept on sleeping. I'm sorry, Craig. We all had Josh Palmer for the Chargers.
It's correct. What? Yeah,
I said sorry in my post.
Look, you shoot your shot. You know, a lot of things need to go right for a sleeper to work out. We got off on the wrong foot with Palmer. He's banged up. The Quentin Johnson thing happened at the beginning of the year. I still think he's a good player. He's also been kind of sneaky playing well as of late. I think, you know, didn't click. Doesn't always work. There's still time.
Also, Lad McConkey
Yeah.
is really awesome.
Yeah.
And I think he's come on a lot quicker than maybe some people expected. Yeah, do we want to do a 2-minute long apology tour with Craig here? What do we want to do for the rest of the
No,
time?
I think so. Look, everyone has
No,
a Mike
now you
Davis.
guys name sleepers that you like that didn't work out. That's how this
there's a
works.
lot.
I've
There's a lot,
actually
yeah.
never picked anything wrong. Luckily, I can't ever remember picking a running back that would or would not go on to either. You know, I've never had a Mike
I think
Davis
I
or
mentioned
Josh
Curtis
Jacobs moment.
Samuel before the season. That didn't work out.
I will say this: I was, as you guys know, weirdly against the Josh Palmer thing,
Mhm.
and then I was at Chargers training camp, and they were doing a drill, and Josh Palmer caught a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, and I have never in my entire career been as close to being run the fuck over on the sideline as I was by Josh Palmer catching this ball in the corner because the Chargers, there's no room. They moved their whole practice facility to get people like in the stands, and so I almost got like
Did he-
depleted. By
Did he get up
Palmer.
on you and let you smell his cologne?
Is that a saying?
That's a Grudenism.
No.
Wasn't it, Craig? Didn't you say
But-
that?
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a Gus Johnson. No, it's a Gus Johnsonism. It
Oh,
was
actually-
Austin and I.
Wait,
Austin
Craig,
and
do
I
it.
were watching Gus Johnson highlights. He goes, gets up on you and lets you smell his cologne. Anyways, it's Gus. Craig, can you
Agnew.
do that?
Agnew.
Agnew up the sideline. Agnew.
Agnew.
Shout out Austin Gale for that one.
Proud.
Finds a seam.
Anyway, I'll admit, Craig, before this Josh Palmer ends, in that moment when he almost killed me, I was like, fuck, I bet that's a sign from God. Craig's going to be right.
Yeah.
Palmer's good. Palmer's a good player. I would take him on the Steelers in a heartbeat.
Oh, my
Like,
God.
I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. All right.
Dude, also, the meme of like, you wanted, he was like, you wanted Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, but didn't have Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams money. Van Jefferson, it'll be then, bud.
Yeah, dude. Great
All
game
right.
last night by Van.
Oh, God. Most embarrassing pick who delivered. This is always a thing every year, and I like that we came up with this last year, which is there's always a player that when you take him, everyone's making fun of you, and you're a little embarrassed you did it, and that
Yeah.
guy's awesome.
Just like feels bad to pick him, kind of.
Craig had Kyron Williams. I also had Kyron Williams, and DK, you had Terry McLaurin. I think those are both excellent.
I think Kyron Williams is actually the perfect one for this because so many people are like, he's small, he's injury prone, he's got Blake Corum behind him.
He's returning punts.
Yes.
Yeah, he's returning punts.
From now on, we are taking punt returns as a positive sign.
They want to get it the ball.
So also,
he's
Cooper
gritty.
Cup returned punts when he had the Triple Crown. Guess how many punts Kyron Williams has returned this year?
2, actually, no. 'cause
Two. It's 2. He returned 2 punts this year. Dude, he's the number 4 running back in fantasy. Kyron Williams. No one's talking about it. He's second in touchdowns in the league. He's the 4th. He's a top 5 running back. He's
That's
basically
a really
doing
good
what
one.
he did last year again, and kind of just nobody cares.
The only people with more fantasy points than Kyron this year are Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Kamara at the running back position.
Yeah.
And to that point, yeah, I was made fun of for taking Kamara in a league. Or sorry, not Kamara. I was made fun of for taking Kyron Williams in the second round of a league. And they're
Yep.
like, he's a punt returner. He's going to lose his job to Blake Corum. I'm like, no, he's not. Get over it. And then I was like, he's not gonna, right? And I
Imagine.
was like,
Get
can you
over
imagine
it.
just like being a
Why
fantasy
don't you
expert,
scram?
taking a punt returner in round 2. But I will say this. I had a memento tattoo across my chest at the end of last season. I wrote down as one of my favorite lessons from the season. Don't worry about like draft cap. Pretend everyone who's good was a first rounder because teams care about
Yeah.
production. And once you've been good, you're good. And I was like, I literally wrote down, do not rank in my notes at the top of the running back section. Do not rank Breece Hall over Kyron Williams. Don't do it. And I fucking cowered it out and I changed my mind.
You did
And
it,
I
you
think
coward.
we should actually, we joked about this. We should make the 2025 rankings as soon as the 2024 season ends. We can tweak them once the playoffs happen. And I think we should compare them to our final rankings and see which ones are better next year.
Can we have next year? We got to just have like a gut rankings and like an actual, like a professional credibility rankings, and then like a gut rankings. Like,
Yeah, remember we flirted with the idea of doing like a fuck it rankings.
We
Like
should do purge
separate
rankings.
from our normal rankings.
Yeah.
It should be take purge rankings where it's like Kyron Williams. Like yeah. Don't let
Kyron,
people do
Kyron is like the far and away best pick for this one. Yeah. I think people were like a little bit worried about McLaurin, but he didn't reach anywhere near the status of like literal punt returner Kyron Williams.
McLaurin's more like this category. So we have the post-type sleeper MVP, and McLaurin fits this as well. So
Yeah.
Craig, you had Chris Godwin before the injury, obviously. DK, you had Tony Pollard. I had Joe Mixon, the running back for the Texans.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's any caveat on Mixon,
that could have worked for the previous one too, actually.
yeah, I mean Mixon. I mean, literally, no one ever wants Mixon. I mean, we did a league here for with like a Yahoo Fantasy Football League for the Ringer, and we actually had a team together. And we were talking about Joe Mixon, and we're like, yeah, and he fell around, and we're talking like, yeah, and then he fell again. It was like the third time. We're like, all right,
no one
fine,
wanted
Joe
him.
Mixon.
Yeah,
Number 2 running back in points per game. Literally,
he
only
looks
behind
he
Derrick
looks
Henry,
like
Joe Mixon.
so much better this year than he did last year too. He looks incredible.
Dude, there's like a whole collection of running backs that are taking some secret steroid this year and look so much better. Like Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift. Those 2 guys I also think qualify for this category. There's a bunch of running backs who were kind of, looked down on and kind of like written off that are awesome this year.
They
Joe
probably
Mixon's
Craig,
averaging
this is like
100 yards a
Occam's
game.
razor and everything, but like they probably were just banged up.
For 3 years, Najee Harris is banged up.
Well,
football is a collision sport, man. Most of the time you're banged up, I feel like.
Yeah, Matt Canada was your coordinator, and Arthur Smith is many things, but he's an American with the run game. So I mean, I think that it's going pretty well there. But yeah, I mean, Tony Pollard, I will say too. Tony Pollard looks back. He hasn't been as spectacular as Mixon. Again, Mixon.
His burst is really back. He's the RB22 this season. Only 2 bad games, really, 4.4 and 7.5 in a couple of games. But other than that, he's averaged more than 12 points per game. Yeah, I also I threw in DeAndre Swift, but I was like, it's kind of hard to get over the miserable start. Like, he didn't do anything for you for the first 3 weeks. In fact, a lot of people probably benched it or dropped him even.
I thought they might bench him because he was playing so poorly.
And since those games, since week 4, he's been the RB3.
Yeah,
then
he's
they
been
corrected
awesome.
him. That's like honestly one of the hardest parts of this job outside of injuries is figuring out whether a guy who sucks can just be fixed or if they'll give up on him. But
I mean,
DeAndre Swift hurdled a guy the other day, and I was like, damn.
He's so good.
Where did this come from, Craig?
Rick
It's the magic.
Guy.
Jumped up a notch.
Yeah, we were like, oh, DeAndre Swift on his 3rd team before his age 25 season. What a good sign.
Yeah.
The next one we have is the Glansberg Award, the player that nobody's talking about, who's being good. DK, you had Brian Robinson Jr.
Who's being good?
Who's being good, playing well, whatever. Playing the football, good. DK, you had Brian Robinson Jr. as the Glansberg. Craig and I had the same one. Chuba Hubbard.
That's a great one.
Running back for the Panthers.
That's a great one.
Chuba Hubbard, man, has anyone had a single Chuba Hubbard conversation this year? He's like, it's like
more
a movie
fantasy team names than actual conversations about him.
It's like one of those movies that gets nominated for Best Picture, but just nobody talks about it. It just like slips into irrelevance. It's like Power of the Dog. It's like that movie was a Best Picture nominee, and then no one has ever talked about it again. That is kind of Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, Power of the Dog. 2022 Oscars. Was
that the one with the guy from Jesse Plemons?
Yeah, Plemons.
The mustache. Yeah,
Cumberbatch. Kirsten Dunst. Yeah. Dude, Chuba Hubbard's the RB14.
Yeah, he's been on an absolute
better
tear.
than that. Since Bryce Young got benched, Chuba Hubbard's a top 5 fantasy running back in total points. Now, total points is cheating a little, but like because
but still he's getting you points.
Part of it, he's been reliable.
He's in your freaking lineup. Yeah.
Since Bryce Young got benched, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, only guys with more points. And if you go points per game, which is more transparent, he's 10th. He's right there with Bijan Robinson and David Montgomery and James Cook at points per game since Bryce Young got benched. Like Chuba Hubbard.
It always just kills me to hear these stats where you're like, I could have had Bijan Robinson or Chuba Hubbard in one roster spot on my team.
I know.
It's like this just kills me. It just kills me.
But then the flip side is like, I guess there were 3 receivers you could have drafted and been happy with in this. CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and then Jamar Chase. And if people don't have Jamar Chase, I'll take the L on that. Honestly, the other 9 picks in the first round sucked. They all got hurt or have been bad. So it was a minefield. But the Chuba thing's funny. The other thing is the strike. He was drafted 3 regimes ago. He's drafted by Matt Rule. And like those guys don't often like always.
He was drafted
catch on.
technically by Matt Rule's wife.
Matt Rule's wife wanted. That is true. Matt Rule's wife wanted
to be totally clear. She told him she liked that guy, and so he was like, "All right, we'll take him." I just wanted to shout out Brian Robinson real quick here. I think he has the distinct disadvantage of having a extremely boring name, Brian Robinson. In fact, I almost just said Brian Johnson.
Sick.
It is B Robinson. Yeah, helps. It looks better. But he is through 8 weeks. He's scored more points per game than Achan, Ramondre, Rashad White, Najee, Javante, Etienne, Mostert, Moss, Singletary, and Zamir White. Zamir White was drafted before this man, according to ADP.
He also just looks good when you watch him.
This is something I've long held. Like when I watch him, I'm like, this guy's good. He just runs so hard.
Big,
he has like
fast,
really
strong.
quick feet, really explosive. At least in the short area, he doesn't have long speed, but he's got really good burst and he's tough and he scores a lot of touchdowns. But I think people were afraid that Jaden Daniels is going to like steal all his touchdowns, which hasn't really materialized. So just want to shout out Brian Robinson.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. I mean, DK and I had Chris Godwin, Craig had Rashee Rice. They can split it, put it together. You get a full season. We're not even close, actually. But Chris Godwin's the number 3 receiver in fantasy football. Number 3.
I know. I think this was like one of the saddest things that happened this season was watching him lay there on Monday Night Football. Just because it was all coming together for him. It was like a big comeback, like new role. The Buccaneers were a fun, exciting team. And then it seems like everything kind of fell apart at that moment for the Buccaneers. So obviously we're bummed out about Godwin. I think he was going to end up like winning a lot of people their leagues because he was drafted as the wide receiver 34, gentlemen. The wide receiver 34. There's some bad receivers in front of him, according to ADP. So, you know, he was a great value. I'd say the same about Rashee Rice. I think if he would have stayed healthy, he'd been winning a lot of people leagues. But
Craig had it.
Maybe next year.
Also, what fantasy sucks about doing this job. I mean, relative, but like, it's annoying when, Craig nailed the Rashee Rice thing and it was all over. It was like Rashee Rice is not going to get suspended. This is the number 1 receiver in the Chiefs, and he's like top 5 receiver immediately. And then Patrick Mahomes tackled him on a pick and then shredded his knee.
Yeah.
And Craig, you were totally on that with the Rashee Rice thing, but you were not smart enough to predict that Mahomes would tackle his best receiver.
Yeah, flinging his body into Rashee Rice's knee,
hurling himself.
And then they really dangled the carrot in front of us. The Chiefs did with the whole injury situation with Rashee Rice. There was like a week where I was like, I think he's coming back. Yeah.
What was that about?
I know, it's such a bummer. Rashee Rice, wide receiver 4 in the first 3 weeks of the season. Back to work, John.
Back to work. Back to work. That was so sad.
That's like the saddest moment I can remember in a long time on the field. Other than DeMar Hamlin maybe dying. Other than that.
Jesus. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you're
really
not
sad.
wrong. You're not wrong. But yeah.
Deplorable.
All right. What else we got? All right.
Let's just move on. Fuck Tom. We got to get out of here after that. All right. Bonus Jonas Award for the 4th Jonas brother. I actually forgot what this meant, and I had to re-listen to last year's show. That I guess there's a 4th Jonas brother.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys would know more than me. I don't know.
4th Jonas, 3rd Franco. There's always another one out there. You know, there's a 3rd Hemsworth, although he's a little bit more famous.
Probably like a handful more Skarsgårds walking around somewhere in Sweden.
Thousands of Skarsgårds.
This award is for someone on an awesome offense that like you're the 4th Jonas brother. That's who you got. And so Deacon had Jalen Waddle.
You forget they exist. They exist.
Yeah, you forget they exist. We had Jalen Waddle. Craig had Sam Laporta for the Lions. I would like to just I don't want Jalen Waddle. I would like to unnominate Jalen Waddle. I think Sam Laporta is perfect.
Yeah.
He is totally the 4th Jonas brother.
I mean, like everyone, like Amon-Ra is a top 10 guy again. Jameson Williams, breakout year. Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery look awesome. Just the team in general is literally firing on all cylinders. It looks like they don't even need Sam Laporta.
The only time they need Laporta is like when they're running some trick play.
Yeah.
Hey, guy, go run down there. We'll run a trick play for you. Just like, feed him a little scraps, just keep him happy. Yeah, I remember in the preseason, we're like, we really kind of like Jameson Williams. He has a chance to like play a bigger role. Maybe it's gonna like cut a little bit into Laporta's his target rate. Should we be a little worried that Laporta is literally the tight end 1 according to ADP? Should we just be a little worried? Jameson Williams took all his targets. I didn't expect him to take all of them. He's averaged, I don't know what he's averaged a game. It's like 3 or something like that. There's a game a couple weeks ago where he had 1 target and it was literally on a trick play. So I don't know. With this Jameson Williams news though, Jameson Williams is
we're live, so I'm going to read directly from mlive.com.
There we go.
Detroit police investigating why Jameson Williams avoided gun charge, and the Detroit Police Department opened an internal affairs investigation into why Lions receiver Jameson Williams was not arrested for carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. Williams' passenger in a car was pulled over by police, And basically, there were 2 guns in the car. It sounds like they were both registered. One, his brother had a concealed carry permit. Jameson Williams did not. So it's just about whether he was allowed to have a concealed gun without a concealed carry permit. And then basically, there was a whole thing over the officers there.
Right.
And yeah, it's all basically the first officer's not a Lions fan. The next one was
body cam footage, and they're like essentially sort of debating whether they should just let him go. Not a good look. We'll see how this goes.
I've never wanted Tom to come quicker.
Tom's on his way. Saved by the bell.
It's like half these players are talking about better late than never. All right, last one here. I won't let the injury get this guy off the hook. Craig had Jalen Waddle for this one.
Yeah. And the injury is obviously to Tua. I'm not going to let the Tua injury get Jalen Waddle off the hook. I don't care.
Craig Waddle, you have a vendetta right now against Waddle.
He has 4 touchdowns in his last 21 games. Please, I'm losing hope. Why is
family starving?
Why is God giving me the toughest battle? I'm going to continue starting him. I will.
Craig, do you want me to read off some receivers? Again, this is like the thing where it's like when you try and picture, I could put this guy in my starting spot in a real fantasy league, and he'd get me the same amount of points as Jalen Waddle. Here's some players that are scoring more points per game than Jalen Waddle this year. Jalen Waddle, by the way, is the wide receiver 72 in points per game. Xavier Legette, Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, Noah Brown, Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Lockett. Should I go on? There's so many players.
Actually, on that note, I want to you mentioned Jalen Naylor. He's the 3rd best Jalen at receiver. He is behind Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Naylor. Those are both 3rd receivers on the team. And he's barely ahead of Jalen Coker, who's like a rookie on the
coming on strong. Yeah. Yeah. You guys kind of have convinced me with this Waddle thing.
But dude, I will keep playing him. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be there when it works.
I'm Irish.
I'll do this shit forever.
I'll do this forever. Yeah.
I will be there.
You're gonna tell me to stop
works.
because I'm going to do this forever. Yeah.
I'm not going to wake up one Monday morning and look back and see that he had 22 points and he's on my bench. I won't do it. I will start him every single week.
Dude.
It's like the gambler's fallacy.
Yeah. Can I just say it again? The Jalen Waddle points this year, 14 in week 1, 6, 4, 5, 6, 2, 6.
Ugh. I said this last week, or last show, but it's so hard to bench him just because his name is Jalen Waddle. I don't know.
We should just call him Mike Davis until he plays well.
I know.
We should. Everybody carries a lot of water for him. I really do think so because the offense is so sick. A lot of Waddle because the offense is so fast. And,
that's
and
like how Calvin
and cool.
said it when he was 2.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle.
All right, do you guys have anything for like a sliding doors moment, or we want to just keep rolling here?
Well, my sliding doors moment was real quick. Just what if the Browns had tried to win some games this year? Like, how good would their receivers be?
How good would the team be?
How good would the team be? Maybe they'd be a really good team. I think it was a Mike Lombardiism. It's like we're just one injury away from being a good team.
That was.
I think that's like I just think about that constantly. Like, what if the Browns had just decided, you know what? Let's try and win some games. Let's try and win some football games. Instead of, trying to validate their contract for Deshaun Watson. So.
I will, in a weird way, not that this is the same thing, but it actually gives me more respect for Bill Belichick, who decided to not play Drew Bledsoe ever again for a 6th round pick that was taken 199th.
I would look. I don't know how, but hadn't he just signed like a big contract or something?
Oh, like that? They paid him like $90 million or something, which was a ton at the time.
Like,
and they was like, nope, this guy's better. And you don't realize how much like you're putting your job on the line until you use like Kevin Stefanski seems like he's gonna get like guillotined if he had benched Deshaun Watson at any point. And then the second Deshaun Watson's hurt, it's like, again, every game they've played without Deshaun Watson under Kevin Stefanski has been marvelous, and they've done nothing but be an incredible football team.
Yeah.
Despite being one of the most injured teams in the NFL. So this is a good one, DK.
What is the stat? It's Deshaun Watson has 0 300-yard games in all of his Brown starts, and Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston have 6 in 7 games of 300 yards or more.
And again, the Deshaun Watson this season before he got hurt, the Austin Gale killing the rainforest stat, was basically worse than Jamarcus Russell in this season that got him ran out of the NFL. So that's a good one, DK. My one was just, I already mentioned, Mahomes tackling Rashee Rice's knee. Can you imagine if the Chiefs just had Rashee Rice? DeAndre Hopkins might go to a different team, Yeah,
that would have changed a lot of things. That's interesting.
DeAndre Hopkins would have run the Steelers right now. God damn it.
Look, you guys fucking beat us. Like that. That game sucked.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about that real quick?
No.
How'd the
Giants
game
suck.
go?
Can I just
Are we
say,
Russell Wilson looks pretty good.
Russ does look good. The 2 feet down rule is one of the dumber things I've seen in a long time.
I didn't know that.
I
I've
thought,
always thought about that, but
I thought the
didn't
same
know.
foot twice was allowed. I thought that was like an established rule. I did not know that.
I'm pretty
guess
sure I
it
knew
makes-
it, but it doesn't. Like, does it make sense? Do you think it makes sense?
I
If he
think
has
it-
time to get 2
No.
down,
So tell me this: if I catch a ball on the sideline, on the 40-yard line, and I'm bouncing on 1 foot, could I bounce my way all the way down the field on 1 foot, and that doesn't count?
this is
Wait.
against people with
Wait.
one leg.
Holy,
isn't it?
yeah, wait, no. Then in theory, you know what this is? It's the Greg Jennings Madden video where it's like in theory, if you hopped, if you
Yeah.
catch a pass and you have like sprained
Hop
your
your
ankle
way.
on the play and you hop, like players hop off the field, would that count?
By the letter of the law, no.
All right, that actually blows. Because the way I was thinking of the rule was that they wrote it that way because, like, maybe upon like an instant replay where you zoom in a million, you see the foot like come up and down, and then a way that you never would have picked up watching live. But that's a good point. Like in theory, you could just pop for like 20 yards.
It's harder to get the same foot down twice than both feet down once. I firmly believe that.
George Pickens. I feel like it could have happened to a better player than
I
George.
gotta say
Pickens. that this man needs to learn how to get in bounds.
Oh, stop.
We
Come
should
on.
make the George Pickens like
It
highlight,
started
like,
out.
the
It
Hall of
started
Fame
out
reel.
being impressive to me that he's making all these incredible. Can we just get in bounds, man?
Do not blame this incredibly acrobatic catch on George Pickens and not this
Getting
stupid.
tired of
Don't
it.
act like he
rule.
practices that.
He caught it like 4 feet in bounds. He couldn't get his second
Yeah.
foot down.
He got hit mid catch and he
Get it
held on to
down.
the ball.
Slam
Get
those
outta
feet
here.
into the ground.
I won't take this pick.
If it was anyone other than George Pickens, I wouldn't care. But this man, every
gotta
day,
say-
every freaking game,
Pickens is really like the perfect Russ receiver.
he is.
He is.
Yeah.
He's born for it.
So stupid.
That go ball down the sideline where he caught it, and he ran out of bounds at like the 2-yard line or something like that. That was like such a perfect pass, such a good pass. And yeah, obviously Pickens is so good at the sideline usually when he can get his feet in. But yeah, I'm starting to get a little annoyed with this guy. Let's get that other foot in, pal.
While we're on YouTube,
Come on.
Can I ask the chat what they think about George Pickens with the 2 feet? Like,
Does anybody agree with that rule?
I don't think anyone agrees. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of thought it was like a minutia. I really thought it was probably just like some old rule or just like it was about instant. I feel like they were worried about instant replay and like, oh, did it come up for a second with the 1 foot? But you're right that technically you probably couldn't hop 7 times and that be a catch, which is kind of
No.
insane. Brian in the chat wants to know, DK, how was your quesadilla today?
Ah, so good, so good. I had to put a little butter on the pan. Just makes all the difference.
You have to
Sure.
or you get to?
Yeah. What do you mean? I had to. It was too sticky.
No, I did. I did put a little butter on the pan. Is what I'm saying.
I know you said you had to.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't mean to say that.
I remember there was one time where DK or Heifetz and I were like on the phone and we were trying to get a hold of DK and he texted us like, "We'll be there in 5 making a quesadilla." And I'm like, "Man, it's not just a bit. He lives it."
But you skip breakfast.
Not,
so
this is not just for content. I
No.
actually do eat.
but the quesadilla is the
every
first
day.
thing that you put in. Like that's lunch, but it's really breakfast because you don't really do breakfast.
Right. I'm not a breakfast eater, usually, unless I'm hungover, and then I'll eat breakfast because I need to. And then yeah, like it's the first thing I'm just craving by around lunchtime. I'm like, I just desperately want a quesadilla, and every single day, it's never stopped. As soon as I stop craving it, then I'll stop eating it.
Can we talk about
Not sorry. Sorry, I'm not sorry. All right.
somebody in the chat was like, "Screw the Pickens catch. Can we talk about the Pickens body slam?" Did you see that video?
When he
No,
jumped up,
actually-
first for the record, he was trying to avoid getting rolled up on,
Oh.
so he jumped in the air and just like it looked like he was doing like the people's elbow or whatever. He just like slammed down on top of the pile.
I forgot about this. Oh my, yeah, that was
Pickens
was,
is the. I think Mita tweeted this yesterday. Pickens is the funniest player in the NFL.
100%. 100%.
It's like he's his own little circus.
Also, we never talked about how he was the one who revealed that Russ was starting
Oh, he talked about it.
in an interview.
Uh,
Oh,
Tomlin
we
did-
got to chat. Should
Yeah.
we make Kai eat a quesadilla every day through the end of the season? And the answer is yes. 100% of people said that Kai should eat a quesadilla every day for the rest of the season. Kai
Kai
would lock
hates
that one in.
cheese. Kai, do you
Um,
like? Well, he's not here.
He would
but
die. I also
I think
think
Kai
that-
likes cheese on pizza though. which is very similar.
He does.
Yeah,
It's a
I don't think
similar thing.
I
A
feel like he
thin
doesn't
layer
think
of
about it that
cheese
much.
is okay, and it's melted.
Kai's never had a quesadilla, so like we could make him try that once. Dude, the next time we're together, DK should make Kai a quesadilla.
Oh,
And then if he hates it, he has to. It's like embarrassing for him because it's a homemade food, so it's harder to pretend. Like it's harder to say you hate it.
What kind of cheese do you prefer, DK?
I like the Italian blend cheese.
Shredded.
Yeah, shredded cheese, and I think it melts the best. Nothing too oily. If you have like a sharp cheddar, it's
Yeah,
just like
cheddar's
getting all
oily.
over the place.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
like bleeds.
Uh-huh.
Your quesadilla is just bleeding oil, which I don't
Bleeding
like.
oil.
It's like It's like leaking oil, and I don't like that. So the Italian blend, mozzarella is like my backup if there's not an Italian blend, but I don't like the mozzarella quite as much. It
Do
doesn't
you
have any
order-
flavor.
Do you order quesadillas at restaurants?
No,
Absolutely not.
You can,
Is
I
it
can
don't.
make that
They
at
don't-
home.
They don't.
It's like
They don't
chicken
have
trim.
the quesadillas. Maybe if I wanted like a quesadilla at a restaurant, I'd order off the kids menu. But like most of the time at restaurants, the quesadillas have like there's just too much shit in them. It's too much accoutrement. They have like chicken in it and peppers in it and like all this other crap. I just like cheese and tortilla.
Vegetables,
Yeah,
meat.
Funny.
I'm not doing this as a bit. That's just how I like them.
It's funny. I feel like quesadilla is one of those things where I'm like, man, a restaurant quesadilla hits so much harder than the one I make at home.
Yeah, it's
I
like
feel
if someone mentions
'Cause the butter on the
Greg,
sand.
you dropped this in when we were in Seattle that like sandwiches are so good now that like if someone made that sandwich for me at home, like we went to Mendocino Farms, and you're like, if someone made that for me at home, I'd be like, this is
Freak
the
out.
greatest thing ever. And I bought it for like $12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, whatever.
seriously, an at-home sandwich is if you got like the sandwich you made at your house, if a restaurant served you that, you'd send it back. You'd be like, I can't believe I paid money for this.
Made with love. Oh, we got another important poll chat in the poll in the chat. Chat in the poll?
Poll in the
Poll
chat.
in the chat.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Should Craig do the Gus Johnson voice? Another 100% to 0.
Yes.
Turkey sandwich, mayo, mustard,
Hold the peppers.
pickled red onion.
Sprouts. Sprouts.
Sprouts, sprouts, finds of bread.
Cashews.
Cashews.
I know. I was thinking Agnew.
You put
It wasn't-
cashews on a sandwich?
No, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
He was
Who's
going
that?
with Agnew. He was going with
Oh,
Agnew.
Oh,
Cashew.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. I see.
Cashew.
I can't do it like Craig. Craig's good at impressions.
Yeah. Craig is the best impressionist.
It's not the best.
Well,
Definitely
the best
not
on this
best.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll take it.
Craig, I'm gonna send you the link that Austin and I were watching it, and I think Carlos was there too. We were watching Gus Johnson highlights, and he's just gets up on you and makes you smell his cologne.
Yeah. That's the
I
thing
can't
about
do
Gus
it.
is it's not just like his voice. He says the weirdest shit.
He's like the
There's
George
a-
Pickens of announcing.
There's a famous one from it was like the NCAA tournament basketball, and Isaiah Thomas for the Huskies hit a game winner. I don't remember the exact details around it, but I remember the game clearly, but I don't remember what year it was or whatever. And Gus Johnson was calling the game. He hits it and starts freaking out like Huskies win, and he goes, "Cold blooded." It's just like it's such an iconic call.
Well, the barbecue one, you got barbecue back there? He's like, hurt my feelings.
Dude, was Gus Johnson the
You
one who
got
said
barbecue back there? You didn't invite me.
was Gus Johnson the one who was like, my name's Al Harrington and I get buckets?
Ooh, was that Gus? I feel like
I don't
it
remember
was.
if that was Gus.
We got a lot of people hitting us up about our boy Eric Collins. Was it the
Oh,
Hornets
yeah.
radio?
Oh,
He also does Maryland football, I think. And he was doing a game the other day, and it was like disaster! What a terrible decision!
Did you guys see this Aaron Rodgers thing?
Oh, no, what happened? Oh god.
Aaron Rodgers says Thomas Morstead has introduced him to the fountain of youth, cayenne pepper and water. Rodgers says he's gassing up with it and feels great physically this week.
What is he talking about?
Thomas Morstead is a punter. Is that the guy that you go to?
Cayenne pepper and water.
So
I feel
he's
like-
basically drinking Frank's Red Hot sauce,
Look, to be honest,
which is, by the way, I love to do that.
people
on
do put
my
cayenne pepper in like I have heard about that. There's all these like spices and stuff you put in water, and it's
Go
supposed
on,
to
you're
have
our
health
wellness
benefits.
correspondent, Craig. Tell us about the
What is this
cayenne
supposed to
pepper.
do? What's the science behind it?
Oh, I don't know. There are certain spices and things that you put in water, and people have like cayenne pepper and lemon, or like turmeric and black pepper in their water. It's all these like cleansing drinks that you can have in the morning to like start your day. I'm sure I believe that they are healthy. They're not like hurting you. But do I think that they are going to revive 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not.
What would happen if the Jets just beat the Texans on Thursday and rip off an 8-game winning streak, and we have to hear about this shit all season?
I think we should drink cayenne pepper and water on Sunday before we record.
That's a good
See how we
idea.
feel.
That's a good
Should I
idea.
go get some right now?
No, we have to get the Doug Emhoff. dude. We have-
Richter
On
from the
that
top
note-
rope.
All right. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Richter. Thank you, Kai and Carlos, for producing this episode and also for working their butts off this week. And thank you to everyone who helped us get Doug Emhoff on this episode. Allison Turner, Kat, thank you so much. Jack Wilson, like all these people who are so immensely helpful. Thank you so much, Corey McConnell. Like, thank you to everyone for all the help. And of course, thank you, Lord.
Think you better than Ezra.
I don't know who that is.
Nothing.
Wow. It was good living with you. Anyways, it's a 90s song.
You know, usually when you sing
you
the
would
song,
know it.
I get it. That one.
People get it.
Can you sing it again?
Nope.
Come on.
This was a band that was called Ezra originally, and then they got like a cease and desist from another band called Ezra, so they changed their name to Better Than Ezra.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
like
I
the
think
Michael
so.
Bolton in Office
Why
Space.
should I change my name? He's the one who sucks. Yeah.
That's the Stefan Diggs. I'm literally never the bigger person. I'm never. Better Than Ezra is really good.
Yeah. I don't know if they had like a lot of good songs or a lot of hit songs, but I definitely remember the song Good.
Were they
Look it up.
better than Ezra? Who do you know the other
I
band?
think they were. I think they
Okay.
were more famous and better than Ezra.
Okay.
Or sorry, than Ezra.
Yeah.
The band Ezra.
That's great. I love that.
That's kind of like when we were hearing about all the local business feuds, like that one in I think Chicago,
Mhm.
like the hot dog stands that were connected, but family brothers who hated each other, and like all those little
Oh,
things.
yeah.
It's like that. Ezra and Better Than Ezra sounds like all those businesses where they just slightly tweak the name and they're like 60 feet apart.
I love spite names.
Well, remember
I
there
love,
was one. I
I
forget
love
what
names that are like just straight up practical. At least like remember back in the day when there was phone books and companies would just like line up to get their name at the top of the phone book, like whatever letter. So like there's a pizza place in Seattle called A Pizza Mart.
I
Literally
didn't
just-
know that. That's really
I
funny.
didn't know that either. But if you wanted pizza, wouldn't you open to P?
Yeah, but it probably would be organized like it under pizza or something, and then it would be like the top one would be A Pizza Mart.
Oh, I
because it
see.
would be,
It's
like,
at the top of the
categorized.
pizza page. Okay.
Right.
The original SEO.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly can't remember how they organized. I think they organized phone books like there was obviously the alphabeticals with just people, and then man, I can't remember. I think businesses maybe were organized by like
Talking about phone books is one thing.
genre?
I can't remember what was in the phone book. Is like that's a different level of old.
To me, like my only memory of phone
Yeah.
books is not using them. It was like playing with them or hitting people with them. That was
Yeah,
what
my brother and I, like the Dukes of Hazzard thing, we would make bets and we would hit each other with phone books.
Yeah, it was like, can you rip a phone book in half using it as like a
Yeah.
something to sit on? You know, hitting somebody with it. That was what a phone book was for.
That's all I got to say about that.
I think I can't remember anything sometimes because my brother, we used to use the local phone book, and then one time he used Manhattan. I don't think we've ever been the same since.
That
Okay.
explains a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, goodbye, everyone.